European countries and in Asia as well. So basically, the artificial intelligence has become very popular in Eastern European countries and also in Asia as well. And Ukraine, Baltic states, including Georgia and other Asian countries are actively working on that, and they're mostly working on outsourcing the work of the artificial intelligence. So basically, they're exporting their code. The most pressing question for these countries currently is how these countries actually can sell the AI code as a product and not only as a code. If we take the example of Ukraine, for example, they are becoming one of the most popular countries to actually outsource the services of software, artificial intelligence, and so on. Also, Baltic states, especially Estonia, has become most famous in writing the successful story of developing their digital products, including artificial intelligence. Everyone has heard of the big names of Skype or Bolt. And also Lithuania is very successful, and they're also increasing their investments. Latvia being lag behind, but if we take the example of Georgia, we have the similar example, just like other Eurasian countries. We are basically working, outsourcing the services of the products. Today we will discuss the questions how we can actually make these problems, how to solve the problems, and how to improve the digital environment of our state, including political scene, startup scene, and so on. So we will have Daci Choladze today, CEO of Pulsar AI. Also we have Irakli Beridze, head of Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at the United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute, and also he's the co-founder of AI Association of Georgia. We have also Ninoy Sakia, government and public sector leader at Ernst & Young, Georgia. Also, we will talk with Gary Fowler. He's the CEO and president and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios. And Hatuna Burkadze, she's the professor at BTU Business and Technology University in Georgia. Let's start with the startup scene and discuss the first question to go with Daci. So I would like to ask you, you started a very successful startup in Georgia, artificial intelligence startup. So how could you make the success story come true, and what was the challenges that you faced during starting your business, and how did you make the growth possible during this journey? And also, what was it actually hard to get the right talent, and also how did you get the funds? And so tell the story of your startup.
Okay, thanks for inviting me here. It's very thrilling for me to be among these people, and I'm very excited to be discussing these topics with you. Well, originally when we started Pulsar, I think the most important thing was the timing, because in different countries, I'd say timing is different. So had we started the startup back in 2016 in San Francisco, that might not work. So I think that the place and the timing was pretty important role player in this path that we've gone through. And so first what we did was that we just identified what could be the most commercially justifiable product for Georgian companies, because the closest market that we had in front of us was Georgia. So we identified that chatbots could be something that Georgian companies could get interested into, and we started building a prototype, and then we went to one of those Georgian giant companies, that was TBC Bank, back in 2016, being pretty famous for their innovative approach towards making business. And that was that was just right timing that we presented our product. They liked it, and they gave us a chance because of not really having too many options to cooperate with to move forward and build a artificial intelligence powered channel for their customer communications. So that was where we started, and I think that the main factor that helped us navigate through that process was being able to move fast and to listen to the customer. So from the very first day of starting our partnership with TBC Bank, we started listening to what their needs could be for the coming months. And as we were building the particular software that we were contracted with, we were also working on developing those enabling technologies that would help us offer them those products that they would be interested in a couple months. So that was, for example, a remote identification. We were seeing actually that became pretty popular these days because customers cannot go to branches today, and it became inevitable for companies to have that service. However, back in 2017 we were already seeing that thing coming because that was already a trend in the Western world. So we started developing technologies that would help us create software and create products that would be demanding for the next quarters to come. So that was the strategy that we took back in 2016-17, and later on we saw that because of actually having restrictions and a limited ability to have access to talents, and Georgia is an example of even harder situation in that case, because if you are, let's say, in the United States and you want to have access to talent outside the country, your money is quite powerful to hire a good engineer outside the United States and have a good engineer, for example, from Georgia, from Ukraine, from Belarus. But when you're in Georgia, it's the salary that you have to pay for anyone else who works outside Georgia becomes enormous for the local market. So we didn't really have a chance to get that kind of talent from outside the country. So at that time we realized that continuing the path that we were on of developing custom software for companies would not help us scale, because we would never have that access to that many engineers locally, and we would have to change the business model. And that's where we decided to build software as a service instead of building custom software for each company. And that was a good decision back in that time, because we built a couple products that became packages that we would sell to the companies. And in that case we would not really need to have additions to our team every next time when we were increasing our revenue. And that was a huge help for us, because we would just build one service and sell it to 10-15 customers, and that would help us scale the business itself. And as we became experts in building software as a services, then we found out that with the same approach we could also go outside the country and build a service that would probably satisfy the needs of somebody else on a larger market than Georgia was. And that's how we eventually went to the United States to chase the path that we're chasing now.
So actually you kind of modified your original plan to fit to the Georgian reality, right? I will get back to the question and to you. I will continue right now with Nino Esakia with a question. How would you actually assess the readiness of Georgian companies for the coming AI wave? And do you already help clients in Georgia in implementation of AI services, whether it's about regulations or implementing software as a service? and so on? And what do you think, what is needed from the government side to actually facilitate the development of this area in Georgia?
Thank you, Anna. I'm so happy and pleased to be here with you today, this evening, to discuss this very important topic during this pandemic period, how important AI is playing in our life, can play in our life, and how AI can change our socioeconomic development. From private sector perspective, so I would start saying that a company needs baseline level of digital maturity in order to adopt AI at scale, right? And to help companies to assess where they are in the process of AI journey, we need assessment of companies' maturity, right? So generally, we use the AI assessment tool, which contain not only the maturity assessment tool itself, but also the information about the AI techniques and technologies, information about any applied, how this AI can be applied in different areas and different sectors, and also the guidelines for the companies to accelerate their adoption of the AI. And in general, those countries who already are assessing their company's maturity and readiness to adopt the AI at scale, they are also using the assessment index annually to assess how the private sector is developing and catching up with the pace, right? So in Georgia, we do not have such kind of figures, statistics, and assessment yet. But what do we know at the moment, right? Yva.ai is the champion company helping different countries with the AI strategy development on the public sector side, and private companies to adopt AI strategies and techniques and tools. We also support many public organizations and IFIs like EU in digital transformation process, and in particular we are supporting EU in Youth Digital initiative, not only in Georgia but also in a region, in Eastern Partnership region. The aim of the project is to accelerate the process and support Georgia's integration and harmonization into EU's single digital market. So the project itself has many components, including the ICTs, and this summer we conducted assessment of the Georgian ICT companies of all size, including the startups, small and medium size, and large ICT companies, and we find out the main challenges that not only startups are facing, but the largest ICT companies are facing in Georgia, and the challenges are quite similar. And I would start with the workforce, with the skilled ICT workforce. And we do have the scarce, very severe scarcity of ICT professionals in Georgia. Thus, we need to accelerate our efforts to prepare our ICT professionals, including AI professionals, to prepare our companies to catch with this AI innovation wave. And there is a quite competitive market, as you know, the talented and skilled professionals are always needed, and there is a really competition for these talented professionals, and mainly they are with either big fintech companies, banks, or even the government sector, thus the small companies are suffering much to find skilled ICT professionals. So this is the one and biggest building block, ICT workforce. And this is the long journey we have to take a step forward and start working even from today. The second biggest challenge that we identified the ICT companies are facing is the market. We have a very tiny market. So the opportunities and the clients are very limited, right? And often there is a competition within the market. And for example, if we take startups like Pulsar, they would say that the competitors are mainly the biggest sector like financial sector banks, or from the other side, this is the public sector, right? So we need to support these companies to developing locally. Because of this tiny market, the companies tend to go out for searching for the clients and for the third challenge, which is the access to finance, right? And the finances are really scarce, and access to cheap financial resources are really hard in Georgia. And if we will take the situation where the alternative source of finances are not developed, like venture or business investing, business angel investing, so these companies, large or small, they need some type of general support from the government and biggest sectors. So what is the situation in Georgia in terms of AI developments? As our study showed, the fintech is the driving force of AI development. And Pulsar AI and Tachi represents the company and the startup among other 5 or 6, I would say, AI startups who are working on AI machine learning topic. And actually, GIZ's ICT value chain analysis study also showed that the fintech is the driving force, as in most of the cases the financial sector is the biggest client of ICT companies. So to continue with the second question you raised, how we can help and how the government can help. So as I mentioned previously, so EY is helping different countries throughout the world. Some of our exemplary countries like Estonia, for example, in AI strategy implementation, development, and then supporting private sector also to catch up this pace. So I would recommend Georgia to have a proper AI strategy and vision where we are going in this journey, to identify the priority areas. And priority areas that we see nowadays is innovation and investment and startups, I would say, altogether in this pillar. The second pillar could be the private sector, and the third pillar, the public sector pillar. But when we say these pillars, we also have to take into account the enablers into each pillar, right? And those enablers we already mentioned could be the workforce, and we need. This is the very urgent building block. Does the government need to think about to take actions towards the preparation of skilled ICT professionals, including AI professionals. The second biggest enablers could be ethical and regulation framework, because we all know how much benefit can AI bring to our society for our country's socio-development in the future, right? But there are also some risks we have to take and to be aware. So the proper regulation framework and the ethical aspects are very crucial for the AI. And a third enabler, I would say, it is infrastructure as one of the enablers to develop AI. We are ready and happy to support government to implement strategy and all those enablers and building blocks. And happy to continue this discussion. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much, Nino, for very valuable insights. And to continue about Georgia's AI landscape, then I will go with a question with Irakli Berite. I can't see him, but how would you also assess the readiness of Georgian AI landscape? And as a representative of international organization, do you already work with Georgian stakeholders? And what is the support needed from the government side?
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I'm really glad to be with you all today and happy to share the stage with distinguished speakers and other panelists. And I'm really happy that in Georgia, events like this are being organized and these very important issues are being discussed. Therefore, I join my voice to mention it that from the United Nations side, the UN is paying a lot of attention to this topic. Secretary General a few months ago issued a roadmap on digital cooperation, the big strategic document, how United Nations is going to support countries in achieving different goals by using and harnessing the benefits of these technologies. Our center here in The Hague is one of the first UN initiatives within the system to support member states in that. Therefore, we are working with all countries, and I'm really happy to see how Georgia is developing its landscape, its AI infrastructure, its AI knowledge. What I see now, and if you look at sort of Georgia's achievements, when I see, for example, companies like Pulsar AI, who is present there, or many other AI startups, and how much knowledge they've been developing and how much achievement they've been accomplishing, it is very encouraging to see that. Also, I'm really happy to see different academic institutions who are investing knowledge in this. I am aware that BTU is going to start PhD program in artificial intelligence, which is really great to see, and I've been in contact with some of the Georgian undertakings. I'm really glad to hear that EY will be supporting some of the initiatives as well, as Nino was just underlining how important it is that countries, and specifically Georgia in that case, but I can speak for all other countries, would develop their AI national strategies. Now, moving into the how governments and how countries should be supporting it, certainly we are at the age where this technology requires a very systematic approach, and we are at the stage where government should be taking it extremely seriously. At the moment, we have around 42, 43 countries which adopted their national AI strategies, specifically developed for this topic, identifying priority areas, identifying priority lines and investment opportunities where countries could support the fields where they feel where they have their own strategic interests in. certainly I would definitely encourage Georgia to also adopt such a strategy and encourage government to support different initiatives to put them all together and bring this to the fruition, where the country will have its strategy, country will have a systematic approach for the development of these technologies, harnessing the data, understanding how to make sense of it, and bringing benefits. Certainly, in the end, from the United Nations side, definitely would like to underline that we pay very serious attention to issues related to the human rights, and any technology which will be developed should be in compliance with fundamental principles of human rights and should support people to live better lives rather than exacerbate any issues which would go against the fundamental principles of adopted human rights. So back to you, and I'll be happy to answer any follow-up questions which you would have in discussions.
Thank you very much, Irakli, for your insights. Next, I will go with a question to Gary Fowler. So, what do you think is the role of the venture capitalists in helping to develop the AI environment in the countries and in the region? And how do you help startups to start their journey in AI development, and also what does investors make invest, or what does not make investors invest in those countries?
Okay, so let me get started. So it's great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 15 companies. I've been involved on the original management team, a Click Software, an AI company out of Israel. We sold it about a year ago. It was sold for $1.35 billion. My next company, Yva.ai, is a company that's nearing $1 billion status today. So been involved in AI a long time, written 74 articles in the last year on it. I think this is the greatest opportunity that Eurasia and Georgia could have. Why? Because AI is the new electricity. Think about it. In the beginning of the 20th century, when Nikola Tesla invented alternating current, think about how the lives changed over the next 30 years. So this digital transformation, this opportunity is in front of each and every one of us here today. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a venture capitalist. So think about it. What do you have? So how do you build a successful, if you look at the question, how do you build a company? So think about it. One is intergenerational teams. You need to have the young folks out there that understand the technology, but you also need those connections. You also need the ideas. You also need trust. So it's critically important. The second is multicultural diversity. Having a mixed team really, really helps. And then decentralization. Georgia has a great opportunity to be able to move forward and to be able to conquer this opportunity. It's, there's the challenge that we have today, and again, I've been, David Yang from Armenia is my partner. He's one of the top AI persons in Silicon Valley today, a billionaire. We started Yva. So I can tell you when we started from scratch. So what do you need to do? The fundamental is, what do? You do customer development. Does somebody really want to buy the product? You find somebody, if you're a technologist in Georgia and you want to go global, Silicon Valley is not a bad place to be able to do it. Why? Because there's investors from all parts of the world there. It's a port, right? I've raised money from China. I've raised money from Israel. I've raised money from Belarus, from Europe, there. So it's, I call it the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. So you go where there's money. If you want to fish in a pond, you go where there's fish. So what I suggest is that you've got these technologists doing the events just like this is critically important, because you need to have that knowledge. You need to understand what's happening in the market. 5.5 years ago, when I met Eric from Zoom, we were talking about Zoom. Here we are, there are 350, 400 million users of Zoom. Embrace the digital transformation. The opportunities now. Think about what Zoom has done for Georgia. Zoom has now democratized opportunities. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you do. You have the ability to connect anywhere at any time with anyone you want. Now, so what I would suggest is that number one is those companies in Georgia actually go out and find out what are some of the trends. What are some of the things, again, keep it simple, stupid. Remote workforce management. Their workforces are not able to go in their offices. Think about technologies could help them solve those basic issues. Artificial intelligence. Think about the simple things. Each one of us on the panel today, from Raquel, Miriam, we each have over 300,000 items in our own personal clouds. We have how many email addresses? 4 to 8. We've got Slack. We've got Google Drive. We got Dropbox. We got Box. We've got all kinds of repositories. We're inundated with information. In fact, each one of us here on the panel has more in their personal cloud. The entire World Wide Web in 1996 was over 257,000 items. This is an opportunity. Why? Because the amount of information each one of us has doubles every year. In 5 years, there'll be 10 million items. How in the world can people keep track? Think about it. So there's another opportunity. So artificial intelligence, I just wrote an article in Forbes Magazine about transportable AI models. The models that we develop that can be used in manufacturing can be used in healthcare. So think about the transportability of the models. Not a lot of people talk about that. Focus on that. So I would suggest that, from my perspective as a venture capitalist, what do I look at? I look at resilient teams. First, I look at the team. Does the team have the right stuff? Secondly, does the technology interesting? And if it's not, we can tweak it a bit on the artificial. Do they need unsupervised AI? Does a machine learning need to be up to speed? Variational autoencoders, ladder networks, whatever. We can tweak that, but find a great team. And then look at the market. Look at where that market's going to go. Is it a market that's interesting? Is there a problem that needs to be solved? And more importantly, are customers willing to take money out of their pocket to do it? Can they generate any revenue? So one is, I say I wrote another article in Forbes Magazine. Startup 1.0 is acceleration. Startup 2.0 is regional dominance. Startup 3.0 is going global. I think that this time right now, Georgia, think about the population of Georgia. What is it, about 10 million? We got 9 million in Israel. Look at what Israel did. I did a company in Israel, Click Software. I was on the original team in the late 90s. They said it couldn't be done. We did an IPO on Nasdaq. You have the same opportunity. So I'm very encouraged about the opportunity. But the one thing we got to do is sometimes people talk a lot. The thing is, I'm an entrepreneur, right? An investor. It's about the action. So take that opportunity today.
Cool. Thank you very much for. I totally agree with you about the opportunities, and actually the opportunities Zoom is providing COVID made actually most vivid how virtual space the opportunities can create and how you can connect actually with anyone in the world and anywhere in the world. So we can really use the opportunities. I'm actually using it by myself right now. And thank you very much for encouraging and motivating people to do it. To continue with this question about opportunities, I will go with a question to Hatuna Burkadze. So if we start discussing about the opportunities and then before we go to the challenges, what do you think is the AI opportunities, not only in Georgia, but also in the region, and how AI can help us to develop our society and politics or economics?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me as a speaker. When we talk about artificial intelligence, of course, AI is developing fast. And this means that AI will change our lives by improving healthcare system, for example, by increasing the efficiency of farming, by increasing the security, contributing to the climate change mitigation and adaptation, by increasing the efficiency of production systems, and in many other ways that we can begin to imagine. Therefore, artificial intelligence now has become an area of strategic importance and a key driver of economic development. We can say that artificial intelligence will bring solutions to many current challenges, from minimizing environmental impacts of farming to contributing to the security. However, economic, legal, and ethical impacts have to be carefully addressed. Thank you.
And to continue further, you could also discuss probably what is the European approach to helping those countries develop their AI ecosystem. What is European Commission or European Union overall is doing for their neighbors?
Thank you for this question. When we talk about the vision of the European Union, we can say that the European Union Commission put forward a European approach to artificial intelligence based on 3 pillars. First, being ahead of technological developments and encouraging uptake by public and private sectors. Second, prepare for changes. And third, ensure an appropriate legal and ethical framework. When we talk about vision, of course, we know that in February 2020, the European Commission published the white paper on the artificial intelligence. And this paper proposes the following measures that will streamline researches, enhance cooperation among member states of the European Union, increase investment into artificial intelligence development and deployment, policy options for a regular framework that would define types of legal requirements, relevant actors, with a particular focus on high-risk applications as well. The white paper of the European Commission and the European data strategy are the important pillars for the new digital vision of the European Union. They are fully aligned with the need to defend and promote European values and rights. The European Commission can leverage a regulatory power, stronger economic and technological capabilities, and financial instruments in order to advance the European approach and shape a new framework as well. In terms of collaboration and joint efforts, for example, for us and other partners of the European Union, we can say that based on this strategy, the European Commission can assist partners to develop legal framework on the artificial intelligence that is adapted to the risks but does not limit innovation, to develop digital innovation hubs specialized in artificial intelligence, to implement projects, joint projects for the development and use of artificial intelligence with the financial support of the European Union as well, to encourage partners to transform educational system. Because when we talk about new digital economic system, of course, for achieving achieving this goal, we need new approaches in educational system. And this transformation process, it's important. It's important and it's essential to encourage and to support digital competencies and skills in science, technology, engineering to develop researchers on artificial intelligence. And I hope that these fields are key for the cooperation with partners.
Thank you very much. I will just remind you that we have 10 minutes left until the end of the panel. So the next questions that I will ask, please just keep a little bit shorter. I will go with the summary questions and ask you for other contents. I just have a small question with Daci also. So do you think if you didn't start with California, with United States, your startup, would you be that successful if you started in Georgia? Would you be able to start and grow your startup only based in Georgia and not having the international outreach?
Yeah, so well, originally we started in Georgia and we've been doing our business here for 2.5 years before even thinking about going outside and working for the United States market. But I think that the ability to experiment, because of not having high costs on experimenting on technologies, allowed us to move forward faster and be at the level in terms of engineering wherever the rest of the world was, and especially the California, where we are seeing the most successful startups are coming from. But to have access to that part of the world and to have access to the capital that we raised, 1.2 million back in 2019, that helped us fund about almost 2 years of our company's operational costs to develop the product tailored for the US market. I don't think that we would have that opportunity to work directly from Georgia for the United States market, because of at least not having knowledge, not having experience of how to make business there. But today, Pulsar remains, it's a United States-based company. We're based in San Francisco, but our office with people of about almost 30 people remains in Georgia, and we're kind of proud of it that we're building the product that serves one of the largest sectors of the United States, the car market. And the car sales are supported today by the technology that Pulsar builds. We're pretty proud that we are able to keep the business team in the United States, but have the operations and technology team back in Georgia, and serve one of the largest markets on earth directly from our office from Tbilisi. So that's a crucial part of our business as well, because our monthly burn is pretty low by keeping our team in Georgia. And I think it's a pretty good model to have that size of team in Georgia backing up the technology part and operations, and having the business team in the United States who helps you grow the business. But actually it doesn't really matter where you're building the technology if you're building it the right way. So that's what we keep here. The team of operations and technology stays here, and the business team is trying to grow the business in the United States. So I think that this combination is helping us grow that fast, helping us have burn low, and helping us have direct access to the US market.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now ask kind of a summary question and ask short answers from probably each participant of the panel if you want to answer. Partially it was discussed already by Nino and Sakia. So how do you think, where should Georgia, and not only Georgia, the countries which actually have less political power, political will from the government side, I mean, or public sector side, where should they start developing their digital sector, and where should the chain go, like from which stakeholders which institutions should help. Is it also international organizations that could help? Is it United Nations? Is it European Union? Is it local startups that should be more active and more innovative? Or how the change should go on the circle? And also, like as a last question with Hatuna Burkadze, I also wanted to ask, she has very extensive experience with the cybersecurity as well, and also is Georgia's role in cybersecurity and developing digital data centers around this region will be very important. So if you could also comment on the cybersecurity issues, why is it important in terms of AI development? Let's start from very shortly, each participant. Let's go on the circle.
Thank you, Anna, for this very interesting question. So I would probably say that awareness is the first step from where we need to start. Because the AI is a whole new era in our world. And I would say that awareness among not only in public companies what AI is and how they can advance and use, but also among public, and that's very neutral, and among the public sector and even decision makers as well. So I think awareness is the key from where we need to start. I would probably say that, of course, our association agreement and deeper comprehensive free trade agreement that pushes on us to be part of the EU one day, and this is an opportunity for us, for Georgia, to become a leading country in Eastern Partnership countries as having this kind of association, the CFTA agreement, to use full potential of this agreement and to be part of the EU's single digital market one day. So this is an opportunity. So I think to answer to your question, so EU is already pushing us to become part of the EU's digital market, and answering from where who can be initiator and driver, I would still answer the government, is the government has a crucial role in terms of identifying the priority areas, as AI has the biggest potential to be used in a public service, right? As Hatuna mentioned, for example, in a healthcare, to use AI as a to detect and diagnose diseases on the early stages, to create the individual treatment plans in agriculture, right? To detect some diseases and the pesticides plants to use. To use in security and in transportation to avoid traffic jams and planned traffic and etc. So we have priority public areas where AI can be very, very helpful. Plus, government should be also the driver of the process to start creation of the regulation framework for the private sector, right? Yes, I think
thank you.
The government.
If you want to comment,
yeah, well,
shortly. And
from my perspective as an entrepreneur and building a startup that focuses on AI, I think that the initiator of, well, if we say that an initiator of creating a solution, then I think that it should be a business, because from my point of view, there is a need out there on the market. Somebody needs some solution, and there's a group of people who might solve that. So it's a very natural process, and I think it's the healthiest model of a demand and a supply, and on one hand there is a demand of automating things, of achieving some efficiency on the business operations side, and on the other hand there is a education that supports people having abilities and skills to build things that would solve those problems that the other side has. So I think that the initiator of developing the AI organically should be business and the people just who see that there is a demand out there on the market. Well, if we're talking about who should be an initiator for regulations, then it might be government. I don't see what regulations would be supporting us today. That might be just limiting us, but still I think that if we're talking about regulations, then yes, we need some kind of authority like government who may do that. But on the side of creating the technology itself, I think that the business, startups, groups of people, students, anyone can try to solve problems that we see out there on the market essentially today when we're having to live in a virtual world.
May I?
Yeah,
Continue.
shortly.
Please, I will make some comment about digital vision for Georgia. I think that in order to develop this strategy, we need vision, absolutely new vision, in order to identify approaches towards technological developments on the one hand, and on the other hand to describe challenges and potential solutions in this direction. Why it's so important? Because when we develop our strategy, digital strategy I mean, it will shape our digital future, and it will give us a real opportunity to become a digital hub in the region, on the one hand. On the other hand, when we talk about cyber security capabilities, of course, for these we need to, elaborate some program for this. First, we need to develop a framework for protection our critical infrastructure. Second, to enhance cooperation with our partners in order to conduct more intensively cyber trainings and cyber exercises. And of course, the third one is to finalize permanent cybersecurity platform with the participation of both public and private sectors at the state level. And finally, to design university programs for training cybersecurity specialists, and of course to implement more intensively educational and informational projects in order to raise awareness on challenges of cyberspace. Thank you.
Thank you. So we should finish the session, the panel session. Thank you very much for coming, and panelists for talking today. So as today we identified challenges and also potentials not only in Georgia but also in the region, and I hope you took some information with you. Thank you.
Thanks.